Hi, I'm Kelly from Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this pendant, something a bit different for you this week. I've put a list of everything you'll need in the description below, so let's get on with it. To make this pendant you'll need 0.8mm wire, which is 20 gauge, and I've cut 5 lengths at 11 inches, which is 28 centimetres. You'll need 0.315mm weaving wire, that's 28 gauge. I've wound mine onto a bobbin. So this is a Bobeeze bobbin by Beadsmith, and you just wrap your wire onto that, and that sits down by your side while you're working. It just, when you're working with a longer length, it just saves having all that wire all flailing about. I'm using an oval cab today. Mine is 30 by 15. Tools, I've got my pliers, round nose pliers, wire cutters, nylon pliers. If you don't have nylon pliers, don't worry, I just like to have these handy for straightening wires, flattening weaves, etc. All my tools are Tronex. I don't put links anymore below, but I have put a list of all these tools if you want to go and check it out. So yeah, all this stuff is all listed in the description below. So cut your wires to the lengths that I have. Take all your base wires, position your thumb centrally on the wires, and we'll start weaving just to the left of your thumb. So take your weaving wire and we'll start with 3 wraps around the bottom wire. So then we'll wrap once around the bottom 2 wires, coming up between those 2 wires. Then we'll go around the next 2 wires, coming up between those 2 wires. So I'm just tying all the wires together here. You can use any weave you like. Then we go around the next 2, coming up between those 2 wires. Keep moving about, don't I? And then go over the top and around that top wire. So we're going around 2 all the way up, and then on the way back down we go around each wire individually. So then you need to come up between the next 2 to go around that next wire. A little bit fiddly when your wires are so long, but keep going around each wire on the way back down, and then we'll repeat that weave a few more times. Push your weave together as you go to keep it all nice and tidy. So I've got 3 repeats of that weave, and I'll finish with 3 wraps around that bottom wire just to secure it in place. And then I'll cut that wire at both ends. Feels like it's been ages since I've done a video. And we press down those little cut ends. I am trying to organise my time a bit better so I can do more videos for you, so there should be more coming soon. So we're going to shape this around the stone. My stone has got quite a pointy scoop on it, so I'm going to bend that with my fingers first, just so it makes it a bit easier to keep that weave central when it goes around the bottom of the stone. And then move into a flat surface. We'll bring the wires just around the stone a little bit, trying to hold the stone as centrally as you can. You can cross them over at the top. So looking at your wires, and we've got just a rough shape for now. We're going to take this front right wire, because I'm just thinking it'll be a bit easier to bend it before we attach it around the stone, then you've got a bit more give with the wires. So we're going to grip the wire right here next to the weave, so I'm grabbing that top wire. And we're going to bend that wire over to the left. And then we're going to grip the wire a little bit further up. And we're going to bend it over the pliers to the right. So I'm just going to exaggerate that shape a bit. I'm going to scoop that wire up. It just makes it a bit easier doing it. Because if you want to pull it out later, but you want quite a large shape on it, it's a bit tricky to pull it out once it's already attached. So I'm just going to exaggerate those shapes with my pliers a bit. And I'm going to do it with the next one, but it's only a little bit, so I'm just going to pull it once it's in. So we'll leave that for now. I'm going to do it on this side too. So make sure your wires are all next to each other so we can get that front wire. I'm going to pop these wires to the front. And as we did for the bottom, I'm going to do that to the top, sort of to the top. So if our bend is there, that's where the stone is. Let me just double check. So if the stone is there, I'm going to bring this wire in at the top here. So I want it about there. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to bring this wire over. And about there, was it? We're going to bend it back over to there. Do you want the same sort of shape as before? And we're going to bend it a bit fiddly towards. I'm going to bend it back this way. So we want it to come out, scoop out, and then go in like that. So we've got those shapes. This will all make much more sense in a moment. So then when it goes back in there, we need to shape it back. So we need to push those shapes forward just a little bit so that the stone can fit in there, because the stone is slightly domed on the front. And we'll bend the second wire in a moment. So we need to wrap those wires around the stone. We want the wires to come quite close over the top of the stone. And then at the top, holding all your wires down the best you can. Grab those wires at the top and give them a wiggle. You can do that with your fingers if you want to. And then we're going to bend and level up those wires where the pliers just bent them up a bit. And make sure that is still all nice and central. And we're going to add a bit of weave into the sides. I'm going to add a little bit of weave here at the bottom of this scoop and here at the bottom of this scoop. I'm going to do the same weave as we did before. I'm pinching the wires where they all meet and I'm just opening them a bit to make it a bit easier to weave. So take your weaving wire and we'll wrap 3 times around the bottom wire, keeping the wraps all on the same wire. So if this is my back bottom wire, the 3 wraps should be at the back bottom wire at the bottom too. Does that make sense? but that is just me being picky. You really can do whatever you want. Then we're going to slide those little wraps down, sort of just off centre a little bit. And then we're going to do the same weave as we did at the bottom, but we'll just do a couple of repeats on there. So just do what you did before. We'll go around 2 wires all the way up, and then we go around 1 wire all the way back down. So I've done 2 repeats of that weave. It's slid up a little bit, so I've had to slide it back down. So it's just up from the centre, and I'll finish it with just a few wraps, 3 wraps around the bottom wire. We'll cut these wires at both ends. And press those little cut ends flat. So then we'll add that weave on this side. So we'll turn it over, again holding all those wires there. Separate them out a bit. So this time we need to wrap, the back wire is now on the top, so we need to add our weaving wire to the top wire, so wrap 3 times around the top wire. Slide it down. And now we're going to do the weave starting coming down, so we need to wrap around each wire coming down, and then we can carry on and just do a couple of repeats on that side. So please mention me, a Kelly Jones design, when sharing your work online. Please don't show in progress or images of the back, as it gives all my design secrets away. If you want to share links to the video, I really appreciate that. It's entirely up to you. So thanks to everybody for mentioning me, and if you're on Facebook or Instagram, tag me, because I'd really love to see what you're making and how you get on with this one. So I've done 2 repeats of that weave. Push it together, slide it down a bit if it's moved. Finish with 3 wraps around that top wire, so our 3 wraps are on the tops. Cut the wire at both ends when you're done, and flatten down those little cut ends. So reposition your stone, have a look at the wires at the top and make sure they all still fit around the stone. I've had to adjust mine a little bit, and I think we need to add just another couple of repeats here just to hold this wire down at the top here. So the same as this, just at the top there, just to secure that wire down. So I've done another 2 repeats there up the top next to that one. You can see I've adjusted that shape to be a bit smaller. Went a bit crazy with it to start with. It was nice though. I mean, if you can adjust the bottom one instead of the top one, it'd be nice to have those great big V scoops in them. Or you can just bend the wires in later. See, I did intend to have these shapes a bit more like prominent. That's why I bent them before we put in the stone in. But if you want to just bend them later, then you can. My bottom weave has gone around a little bit. So now we're going to attach the wires at the top here. So you'll keep your top wire attached. We won't cut that. We'll use that next to bring all the wires together. But we can cut off this little tail end from the other end of the weave. So cut that off and press the ends down. Again, check your stone fits first. We're going to pull all the wires together here. We're going to wrap around the whole thing. So we go around everything about 5 times, wrap it all together. I've got an alarm going off, I've got tools up my sleeve, and we shall be back in a moment. Right, so we'll finish with 3 wraps around the back. So wrap around the whole thing about 5 times, and then finish with 3 wraps around one of these back wires here. And we'll fit our stone. Move to a flat surface, reposition your stone. The wires may have moved a little. Looking at the back, we've got 4 nice gaps in the wire between the weaves. So we'll pull that wire over the stone so we can hold the stone in nicely from the back. So pull that wire away a little bit so we can get the pliers in. Wiggle the pliers right the way down to the middle there. Got a really slippy stone. And we're going to bend that wire in. My stone's going to keep trying to escape. We'll do the same on this side. So just grab that wire. So there's a gap. And then twist that wire in. This is what I was saying about the front. You can twist these in later if you want to. I just thought it gave us a bit more sort of play with the shape by doing it before instead of doing it now, but it's entirely up to you. So we can bend these wires in as well just to hold it in place. So I'm going to bend this wire over the stone a little bit. I'm going to have to rewrap the wires at the top. I've all pulled it all out of shape completely, and I'll pull this wire in, and then I'm going to go and fix that. If you pull your wires apart at the top, it kind of helps hold the shape a bit better. So on the front now, I'm going to pull this wire forward. I didn't plan to, but I'm going to, just so it holds it in nice. I have the wire at the bottom there. I'm just going to twist it a little bit. And then on this side, this wire forward just a little. We can get the pliers in there. And pull that wire forward a bit. So where we've got the big scoops, we're going to take the second wire I'm going to twist that in. Which way am I going to twist that? Let's have a think. I'm going to twist it that way. And then on this one, I'm going to get in between there. I'm going to twist that one. But I don't want it to rise at the bottom, so I'll push it back down. It's looking a bit crazy. The back's looking very crazy. Have a little look at the wires on the sides and part those a little bit if they're close next to each other so that it's all nice and even. And on this side, just so that they all lie nice and spaced and even. So I just wanted to quickly show you a new tutorial I've recently finished. This one's for Valentine's and I've added a couple of hearts on the top. It's a written tutorial and it's currently in my Etsy shop and on my website. I did it as a twin pack, so I did two, similar with the hearts at the top there. So I'm doing a 2-for-1 on these. If you want to go and check it out, have a look on Etsy and on my website. I'll put links in the description below. So thanks for looking. Hope you're enjoying the video and I'll see you soon. Bye. So next we're going to take the back 2 wires and we're going to weave just along those 2 wires. So we'll go around both wires, bringing the wire up between those 2 wires, wrap once around the top wire and then once around the bottom wire. And that's our repeat. So keep repeating that across those 2 wires. Should have straightened my wires a bit first. So keep repeating that on those 2 wires. Once around both wires, come up between, once around the top wire, and once around the bottom wire. And then keep pushing it down as you go in. So I've done quite a lot of that weave. That's the messiest weave I think I've ever done. So don't look at it too close. I've done 4 centimetres of that weave and we'll shape it around into a bail. So we're going to push it forward at the bottom and then bend it over. And over to the back. And bring the back down. And I want it to come down, sort of push those wraps up a little bit. So we're going to wrap around to join. So I'm going to join at the bottom there. So I want this to come down to meet at the bottom there. I'm going to bend those wires out at the bottom of the weave a little. And then bring it down so it meets there. I don't want this big scoop on this bail because I'm going to be bringing these wires up the front. So I'm going to try and squash it a little bit. Just a little. That's not very good, is it? Not doing very well today, am I? Right, I'm happy with that, and this joins where I want it to on the back, and then that'll be our bail. So then we take this wire around the whole thing, so we're bringing wraps around just below where the other ones were, and if you part your back wires, it's to help hold it down and stop it moving around, she says. So we're going to wrap around that, I don't know, about 5 times. Hold it nicely in place, and then we'll finish with a few wraps around one of those back wires. So that's all strapped down nicely in place, and we'll cut that wire and press down that little cut end. So next we're going to take this front wire, pull that down out of the way, and we're going to take the front wire on this side and pull that down out of the way. So looking at all these middle wires here, I've bunched them all together. So we've got 2 on the side and 2 on the side and 2 on the front. I've bunched them all together, and what I'm going to do is pull them all forward. I'm going to really bunch them together so the side wires are next to each other, and then those 2 wires are at the front. and I'm going to wrap, like we've wrapped here around everything, I'm going to wrap around all of those wires just for a little bit, just a tiny bit there at the bottom. So I'm going to attach to this one here. So take your weaving wire, and we'll wrap around the wire 3 times, whichever wire you want. Slide it down, and we're going to wrap around the whole thing. We're going to leave the bail out, we're going to leave these 2 wires, we're going to wrap around everything else. And you want those wraps to be as low as possible. So I'm going to go around this way. I'm just going to go around and around and just carefully wrap all those wires together. So I've only done a little bit, I've done about 10 wraps. Push your wraps down. I'm just going to hold that wire for a second, and I'm going to take the 2 left wires out. Which one's the other left one? That one. And on this side, we're going to take the 2 right hand wires out. Which one's that? That one there. Oh, so we've got 2 wires coming up the middle. Little bit of a strange one for you this week. So now we're going to weave across these 2 wires here. And I'm going to keep them at this angle, one to the front and one to the back. I'm going to go around the back so it's easier to weave. And I'm going to go once around that back bottom wire, once around both wires. And that's the weave. So keep repeating that along those 2 wires, and then when we can we'll push it down a bit. So I've just continued that weave along those 2 wires. I've done about 1.5 centimeters of that weave. I'm going to keep this tail end here from the beginning, because I might pop a little bead in the middle there. So what we need to do now is we need to cut this wire and do this same weave over these 2 wires over here. Now we might need to add more weave repeats, so we'll leave a nice bit of length on there. So I've left about 12 inches of wire still attached, and then we'll jump over to the other side and do that same weave across those 2 wires. Hard to show you. These 2 wires here. So that same weave up there for the same length, about 1.5 centimeters. Best to hold it this way and weave it from the back, so you're looking at the back. So I've done the same weave on that side there. And I am going to cut off the tail end from the beginning of that one. So we're scooping this weave to the left, but we're keeping it side on. And make sure you really push those weaves down together. So we're scooping him out to the left. We're going to take these 2 middle wires and we're going to scoop those out a little bit as well. And this one too, we're going to keep it nice and flat. We're going to also bend that out to the left. So then the first weave, try and tidy myself up a bit first. We're just focusing on these top weaves. This one, we're going to scoop it out to the right. finish off this weave. And I don't want it to come undone, so I'm just going to wrap a few times around a single wire. So I suggest you get your weave to be the same length as mine. Oh, come on, which way have I gone now? And then just finish it with single wraps around one of the wires, preferably the back one. I'll cut that off. Press down that flat end. We're going to take this back wire and we're going to take it around the bail section. Now we don't want to spoil the shape of this scoop in the weave, so I'm going to try and keep that as it is. I'm going to take this around here, like that. So I'll cut that there, and then that can finish underneath. And I'll squash that in there. So that's in place, and we've got a spare wire here. Left weave over here. I'm going to scoop that around, and I think I've got too much weave on there. I might take a bit of weave off. Actually no, keep it as it is. Bring the front wire to the front. We want the back wire to the back really. We need to finish off that weave. So wrap a few times, finish with a few wraps around a single wire and cut that weaving wire off so that finishes off those wraps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend that weave around, bearing in mind I've got the wires coming off it. So the front wire is going to come to the front. The back wire can go wherever it wants at the moment. Just bring it around. So we've got that nice shape. And we'll attach the back of it, whichever's easiest. We'll attach the back through there. So I'm going to cut that off to make it a bit easier. So I'm taking the back wire through, where is it going to be in focus there, through the bail, and then I'll wrap around the back of that bail a couple of times. And then I'll cut that wire. So this front wire is going to come up. This wire is going to go up as well. Cut those two wires around those pliers. I'm going to just curl those around. I don't know if you've noticed Gracie's snoring her head off there in the background. So we've just got a little curl. I'll do it for this one as well. And then these two top wires here. Start with the top one. I'm going to bring it around to exaggerate the shape. We do this a lot, and then afterwards I always wish I'd done smaller shapes, so I'm going to bring it in just a little bit tighter. And then I'm going to take that around the bail next to that one to attach. So carefully, trying not to misshape the top part too much. Bring that wire up and around the bail. Thank you to anybody who's watched it this far. I really appreciate you guys. A bit long-winded this one. If you can guess how to do the beginning, you can always skip to this bit. Can't have it that big. And then bring that around without losing your shape there. If you squeeze it rather than pull it, then you won't lose that lovely big scoop in the top there. So I'm going to cut him off. Bend that around the bail without pulling it. And press that around. Sorry. So this one, I'll wriggle it forward so you can see it a bit better. I'm scooping it around the same direction. Sort of bringing it a little lower down. And I might attach at the bottom there before the first one attached, so it's a bit lower down. So I need to pop that through the bail there, carefully. And then reshape the front. And then I'm going to wrap that around there at the beginning. Cut him off. And then take it around. Trying to hold that wire in place the best I can. I'm going to wrap it around that part of the bail there. Pull it through, press it in place, tighten it up, cut it off. So I've put a tiny little bead on there, little 2mm bead. I buy my little beads on Etsy. That's just copper. If you're getting really tiny, I make sure that all my beads have widened. Start again. So I make sure that all my beads, that the hole is wide enough to go onto the base wires, so you've got more versatility with them. So I go for a 1mm hole, and if the person who's selling them doesn't state, you can always ask to make sure. So pop a little bead on that tail end, then we'll go around here and wrap this around this wire. So we've got a little bead on there. And then we'll cut that little tiny tail end off of there. And then this wire is going to scoop around the bead, she says. Do it nice and slowly so you can see where your wire's going. And this wire comes around as well. So both wires are going out to the right. So then this wire comes over this bottom wire, the other side wire, and round to the back. And then this wire comes up and around. Out to the side and across the back. So at the back we need to free up these wires really. These two back wires need to come round that one so they don't affect it, because I'm going to just bring these wires up and curl them. That wire that comes around there from the front, I'm going to take that wire around this back wire here to finish that off. And we're going to cut both those wires off, curl those wires. So I've tucked them in so you can't see them. I've curled up those back wires and I've tucked them around the sides so they're nice and flat out the way and you can't see them from the front. And we've got this one last wire to finish off. And I've finished it off, I've pulled this wire up a little bit and I've scooped it around so it goes up to the back. So we've got a nice shape on it, so it adds a bit of swirly to the front. So as it comes up the back like that, I'm going to attach it around the top of that back wire there. So I'm going to get in, make a gap between the stone and that back wire. I'm going to cut that wire and then with round nose pliers and bring that wire around that one I just made a gap for, attach it around there. Keep checking the shape on the front so you don't misshape it. And tighten it up around the back there. So something else a little bit different for you this week. But there we have it, finished. I'll run and oxidise it and I'll come and show you what it looks like. So there we have it, finished. I've oxidised mine. If you'd like help oxidising yours, I did a video on oxidising and aftercare. I'll put a link in the description below and on the screen. So thanks for joining me today. I'd love to see what you made and how you got on with this piece, if this was the one you chose to make. Please share with me over on Facebook and Instagram. Tag me so I can see. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.